Good afternoon and welcome to 3 Men and a Blog and our review of First Minister's questions. Very interesting today. And we're joined by Alex Grant from the Constitutional Commission, Norrie, who you'll have probably noticed before, and Stuart as well. So we'll start on the left-hand side with Alex. And what did you think of the performances statements?
I thought Alex handled the whole thing as well as I've ever seen him handle it. It was fairly obvious where I think most people were going to come from, apart from wee Willie Rennie. He's always a surprise. But the way the Labour Party and the Tory Party approached things, the Labour Party was a consistent continuation of what they've been doing before, and as usual, our wee friend was reading off a script. Funnily enough, I think she got an extra question at Florence, to be quite frank, because she ended up off script and looked distinctly out of place at that point. But I thought all of the First Minister's responses were as good as I've seen, and then somebody suggested while we were watching it, he actually got quite angry about some of it, and I think he should get angry more often, as long as he does it in a controlled fashion, obviously. But I thought he handled that very well. The Tory party were on their usual hiding to nothing, trying to suggest that he was in the wrong place over Europe, which is, it's a hoot that they even tried that. But his answer was ace as far as I was concerned. And then wee Willie Rennie tried at least you could describe that. He tried it in his usual new modus operandi of measured statesman-like tones, but at the end of the day, it was still complete hypocrisy. We've had umpteen commissions on Scottish devolution. We supported the watered-down Calvin Commission. We didn't want a second question. But by the way, you're not being very democratic if you don't want to engage with us if there's a vote for no in a positive form of devolution. I mean, if you want to believe any of that, you might believe that the Tories would give us free education, free higher education. So yeah, I thought it was an interesting FMQs, and I think the First Minister did a fantastic job responding to his critics.
All right.
I actually thought Joanne did quite well. I think she's improved. And they've got a nice line to tag everything onto with you're putting at risk business development with your Indie Ref, and the Tories are doing exactly the same thing with their 5-year-long run into a European.
She didn't actually say that though, funnily enough, did she?
She did at one point. She managed to get
it
right at the very start.
It's the official Scottish line, I noticed. That was yesterday.
Okay, no, I missed that
line.
That falls to pieces when the Westminster Labour Party sends the letter up saying, no, we can't say we're not having the referendum.
Never say never.
In case we need to.
Because we don't have any ball.
So I thought she did quite well. I mean, I agree with Alex that she lost the plot a bit when she got a supplementary question. But I didn't think she did badly at all today. I'm beginning to worry about Alex. I think he's beginning to waffle. I agree with you, he does well when he gets angry. And he seems to be quite good at directing that anger. But I do feel he needs to shorten it. Because I think that'll discombobulate her.
That's a great word.
I think she'll get a bit confused. She won't have time to think up and read her script before she stands up again. So I think he's good at that. He's good at the short, sharp, stick in her eye and sit down. She'll be sitting there with her mouth open wondering what happened. Ruth Davidson, he'd be a Tory in the Scottish Parliament. She's not really got anywhere to go. And this idea that somehow Salmond would go to Westminster to get permission to run a referendum in Scotland on the EU before the English referendum? Is that what she's suggesting? Or does she want him to undertake to guarantee a referendum when he doesn't know if he's going to be in power? So she expects Salmond to ape Cameron?
I don't think she was that clear, to be honest. I thought she was...
Well, she was trying to say there was a democratic deficit.
I don't think she was asking for a specific as far as that's concerned, Norrie. I think she was just trying to suggest you wouldn't have a referendum like we're going to have one. We're democratic, you're not.
That's the one that the Tories have go on for donkey's years. The Eurosceptics. We want to let the people have a choice.
Yeah.
We've spent 30 years pumping it out through the Daily Mail and the Daily Telegraph and the Daily Express how bad Europe is, and therefore it's now time for a referendum to come out. Simple.
Yeah.
Only it's not, because that's not the reason it was done. The
But
reason it
we
was
know
done
it.
to get UKIP off his
Get
back.
back and Willie.
I'm sorry.
Why
What's
bother?
that about?
Yeah, I
You know, I mean, they fought against the second question on the Scottish referendum voting paper, and now he wants some backing from the SNP for some really crap, vague home rule statement.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's just a
I'm
piece of
sorry,
nonsense.
it's Willie Hypocrisy Rennie. That's his new name.
Well, I've got a better name for him anyway, but I'll give it that in a minute.
I have to say, though, again, I agree with Alex that statesman-like, measured, he looks the part. It just, I'm sorry, he still looks like something that the Prince just isn't up to it.
No.
Right, I think we agreed last week we should include the presiding officer, who again this week was a deputy. And I have to
Elaine
say,
Smith.
and again she did. I felt that she did much better than Tricia Marriott. I don't.
Is she Labour?
Yes,
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
I know, Elaine, yeah, she's chair of the cross-party cubic group. So.
But this is probably why Joanne got that extra question. But yeah, I mean, she did quite well. Willie Hypocrisy Rennie was, as you say, being hypocritical. He seemed to represent everything that's wrong about a politician. They can stand up and, to the ignorant and the uneducated, they look and sound reasonable, and as if they're people to be trusted and give me your vote. But when you stop, as soon as you stop to think what they've said and what they do, as soon as, they'll sign pledges. They'll actually sign pledges on video that this is what we'll do in government. And then they get into government and do the absolute opposite. And yet they'll still sound, why don't people throw tomatoes at people like that? That's what I don't
Well,
know.
the point is, Stuart, they don't. So it's soundbite politics, as usually say. If he can say, well, the Liberal Party is trying to have a democratic discussion and the SNP won't engage in it, they're anti-democratic, the same way that Ruth is saying, well,
We'll let people decide.
We're letting the people decide.
I mean,
He
yes,
won't
I
let,
agree.
and it's back to the classic, this guy's a dictator.
Yeah, that's
You know,
true.
I think that's the game they're playing.
You could be right there.
And if everybody watched the whole FMQs, I agree with you, they wouldn't reach that conclusion, but if they only get the sound bites,
Well,
which is
that's
what the
true.
media do.
So Willie, we know where he came with there. I think Alex had been getting angry. Alex did genuinely get angry because although, and I'll agree with you, it was controlled, but he genuinely got angry because he kind of sat down and then he had to gather himself
It was
for the next
exasperation,
for
yeah.
the next
Good to see emotion.
but I can see why he was angry. It was about the NHS, in which he was expecting another attack on that topic. He may have decided to get angry before he even came down the gangway and sat down. If I get an NHS question, I'm going to get angry.
Yeah.
But he certainly got angry, and it worked. He really put Joanne in her place. Joanne, she was average, I thought. I don't think she was particularly... I think that there was an awful lot more opportunity there for Joanne, in particular, to get stuck into the SNP based on that poll, that strange
And
poll.
they didn't take it.
They didn't take it, and going on the EU,
But is that?
well, but I just
There's
felt
enough
it was.
headline. No, there's enough
But,
headline.
but anyway, she went entirely, 99% of everything she talked about was the EU. And yet there we have the Labour Party in London, haven't made up their mind what their position is on that. And what was the...
Well, having changed their mind.
All right, and what is the position of the Labour Party in Scotland on the EU? We don't actually know.
They haven't got the rules.
Huge risks.
Don't know to London folks.
Well, exactly. Huge risks to go down that road. I mean, it's possible that the SNP, in their preparation for this, could have sat there and said, what if they bring up the EU? Why don't you hit them with this, with that? Well, Alex didn't. So in that sense, thinking about Alex, although he was angry, possibly missed a chance. They could have been much better prepared for that. Ruth? I think Ruth got her point home, because that's the only point she was trying to... Her soundbite was, we are giving the people a vote, and you won't. And that's all that's all up here in the outlines.
Yeah.
And what about the wee man?
Why?
William Hypocrisy Rennie.
Oh,
That's all there is to it.
Well, Alec, thought he was very, very good. I do like the anger. Just when it comes across, and he's got a target rather than, just a smarmism. Joanne, I mean, great hypocrisy, really. The whole bit she's got about the National Health Service. all this that's happening, particularly down south, was all started. The tilt was done by Labour for the privatisation of everything else. And you can see as well, she's going on about sound bites. That's all she ever does is sound bites. And it's not even her sound bites, it's somebody else's sound bites, which she very badly reads off a bit of paper.
And a soundbar.
Yeah, and then at the end, when she does get a chance to actually show her leadership qualities and be able to go it, she didn't quite manage it. Ruth, that's inverse hypocrisy. You expect somebody like Alex Salmond to be as stupid as David Cameron, and he's not giving the British people a referendum on Europe. He's giving his backbenchers who he's terrified for. You can hear his spectre going when he's on the telly, that he's giving this referendum to. That's all it is, and he's just making this country look stupid and actually not fit to be in Europe.
The fact of the matter is, there is not going to be a referendum in Europe. The Tories will not get in next time round, because the Liberals cannot sit down in coalition with them, and the Labour Party can't sit down in coalition.
Well, to quote say never, to quote Dougie Alexander when he was asked about would Labour give a referendum, there it was, there it was going again from the Labour side. I'll never say never. I've already got a button with a few politicians. 20 quid that Labour will go in offering a referendum. I have no doubt.
I think your point's well made, Norrie, but at the end of the day, Labour are basically, they're trying to be anti-referendum because it suits one half of the agenda at the minute. But if the polls show, as they seem to do in England, that the majority of people want a referendum, then the Tories will portray them as anti that, and at some point, they're between a rock and a hard place what they've done now, but
He's done it. He's done exactly what Wilson did in the 70s. 2 or 3 years pretending to get a better deal out of Europe, and then you have a referendum. Well, this is a good deal.
Just finish off Labour's history anyway. Whenever they come in after Tories, they always carry on Tory policies for a little bit, and then sprinkle a few bits of gold dust about, and then just carry on.
I remember that.
We had 13 years of a Labour government. You could have been forgiven for not noticing. And I've been in the Labour Party since 1979. And then it come to Wee Willie. Well, to paraphrase Burns, 3 words. We sleek it. We sleek it. Sleek it. I paraphrased it. Sleek it.
Yeah, sleek it. Yeah, it's
right.
That's a good. Yeah, it's very, very apt. I like it, Phil. Well done.
And scores, including the presiding officer, Elaine Smith.
I give Alex 9. Because I disagree with Norrie to the extent. I think when you're answering those questions, if you just keep it short and sweet, you miss the opportunity. If you're being questioned, you did this, point X, and it's bad news. If you only answer point X, you don't get the opportunity to go back and say, no, I will answer point X up to a point, and sometimes, of course, Prime Ministers and First Ministers don't even answer point X, and they go back at the weakness of the person asking the question and stick it to them. I actually thought he got the balance absolutely spot on today, including talking to Ruth Davidson and saying, look, if you want to go into the 2016 Scottish elections recommending that we should have a referendum in Scotland, you carry on. And that was a perfect answer, unlike what was said in Newsnight last night, as we discussed earlier, because that wasn't quite smart enough. So anyway, I give him 9. As far as our Labour friend is concerned, to be honest, I think she missed a trick. I agree with what was said earlier. She seems to be coming up every week and saying, well, 3 weeks ago I talked about A, 2 weeks ago I talked about B, last week I talked about C, so I'm going to have a go at A, B, C, and I'm going to add D. And the opportunity, because interestingly enough, the social survey statistic, the detail hasn't been produced yet, and it's all headline stuff about the yes vote number has gone down. Well, if I'd been her, I'd have made a lot more out of that. But she only, marginally referred to it, so I give her 6. Ruth Davidson, actually, I thought the way she asked the question was quite good. So, I'd give her. I'm torn between the question. She always has a problem with the questions she asks. She gets hammered on the question. Quite frankly, her delivery was better, but her question wasn't that great. So I give her a 6 as well. Wee Willie Rennie, well, as I said earlier, I tend to want to give him some points for, as you've done in the past, for statesmanlike, measured, not sticking it in somebody's neck with a knife.
Well, he doesn't play the man.
But no, he doesn't play the man. So to that extent, you got to give him credit for that. But come up with that hypocritical, sleeked crap. I'll give him 4.
He needs a slap.
I give him 4.
What about the president? There you go.
And the presiding officer?
Well, she was quite aggressive. I don't think she was as good as, I'll be accused of being sexist now, but your man, whoever his name is, last week I thought actually was very, very balanced. But to be fair, she is better than the normal presiding officer, and she did tell him to shut up. Now, you could claim it was biased that she gave a supplementary to her pal. So I'll give her 7.
Joanne Lamont, sorry, I think she's doing better. Our supplementary kind of caught her out, which, but she's still fairly young in the position. I'm going to give her a 6. Well, she's still fairly young in the position. Sam's been at it since
she's 50 odd. She's been
around
for ages.
She hasn't been
Alex, I think he needs to play with his delivery a bit. I think he needs to unfoot them, as I said earlier. So I'm only giving him an 8. I'll give him an 8. Ruth, no, I kind of agree. She's professional. She's always going to have a problem. It doesn't matter what questions she asks.
Yeah.
You're going to be able to cut her legs off,
Yeah.
I'll give her a 4. Willie. No. You kind of want to pat him on the head after he's finished.
With an axe.
You did that very well. I'll give Willie a 4, but that's all about behaving himself, really.
And Elaine Smith?
I'll give her a 6. I think she could have been a bit quicker with her interventions. And she let both the SNP weren't particularly well behaved this week either, or the Labour Party, but she was a bit slow with her interventions. I felt she should have cut it off right at the start.
Yeah.
All right. I'll start with Willie. I don't care how well and measured his performance was. He ruined it all by the total Willie hypocrisy. Really, his entire question just displayed what was wrong with the Lib Dems. Afterwards, they're probably going to sit down and say, "I'm sure I haven't said anything like that," because it destroyed them. Just reminded us of how the turncoats there, when it comes to policy. So 1 gets 1. Ruth, I think Ruth scored today in the sense that we now know what her, what she's up to. She's up to getting herself a safe Tory seat in Surrey at some point in the future. And in that sense, she gave the party line that pleases all the Eurosceptics down in the southeast of England. And she made that point, and she gave it a tartan. She put a kilt on it. Right? So I think she did very well. I'm going to give it a 6. So twice what I've ever given her a 4. Joanne. I was surprised that she didn't carry on with the National Health Service. So towards the end, she did. She kind of finished up the last 5% of her allotted time on the NHS, but she made a big mistake and made Alex angry and got her put down. And I think she missed. I think the Labour Party missed a point on that poll. They could have. Not a very good poll, doesn't give its accuracy, but it wasn't very good, and it was the toast of the steamy everybody's been talking about in the last 24 hours. So I think she was wrong to select the EU. There's a lot of things wrong there. I'm going to give her a 4. Alex was genuinely angry about the NHS question, and he did very well. He made 2 or 3 very good sound bites. I'm not going to run through them. I've left my notes over there somewhere. But he did get in some very good points. I think he did very well today when I think about it. I'm going to give him a 9. And Elaine, it's not Elaine C. Smith, it's just Elaine Smith. Presiding officer. I thought she did much better, still better than Tricia Marwick. It's a bit dubious about giving her Labour Party colleague an extra question, but in the end she didn't do her any favours, giving Joanne
No, absolutely not.
So I'll give her a 5.
She's probably told off for that.
Well, knowing Elaine as well, because Elaine's one of those that really is on the left in that group. She's a bit of a pussycat, and she might have just stuck her right in it. Let's see if you're going to do an ad-lib. You never know.
Well, she certainly found out.
But we'll start off with Willie. I'm sorry. I mean, that's why when the Sleek It Wee Beastie, I thought, I mean, God, I mean, sorry, you want to reach for a bucket? No, I can't give him anything. I won't give him anything at all. No. I mean, it was just Dick. I mean, sorry, that type of thing. I mean, just a horrible man, really, today. I mean, coming up with that. And Ruth, again, great delivery, but then she's well trained and everything else. And I suppose she's a consistent nasty Tory. I'll give it.
Every time you describe Ruth and the word starts with a C, I don't know what you're going to come out with. Conservative? Bleep?
I know, yeah. I'll give her 3. I'll give her 3. Joanne, it's that every other leader in there talks to the camera. You just get this shifty look with the eyes, the way it goes down, glued onto that paper. I'm sorry, it just comes across really badly trained, really. She's obviously not, why isn't somebody actually sending to an intensive course somewhere?
No, you're right.
You know, it comes across really shifty. Yeah. She just does not come across as a first minister. I mean,
no, impossible. She couldn't be our first minister, as Elliot said last week. Not in a million years.
She doesn't come in.
She doesn't know her brief because she's a teacher, so she should be used to talking to, albeit Wayne's not adults. But the fact is, she doesn't know her brief enough, which showed in the ad lib. Because what do I do now?
And she's got a master's in English, right? So she should at least be able to articulate it a wee bit better.
Yeah.
And then she asks these questions where she keeps coming back when she doesn't get the answer she wants, because she asks the questions, or her scriptwriter asks the questions that can only be answered for her possibly. Alec just cannot answer them to fit. So it's always back, and it's those shifty eyes going and all the rest of it. So I'll be generous and give a 5. Alec, I was going to give him around 8.5, 9, but then he used a phrase which none of the other leaders, they've all got into the habit now of going on about welfare. You get welfare bills. They've all borrowed this gross Americanism,
It's more than welfare, it's welfare reform.
Oh, it's just that welfare which brings up, soup kitchens and all that.
Just think of workhouse.
And in the UK, welfare is usually animal welfare, which is really, when you think about it, exactly what the Tories think of people in that sphere of life. He uses the word like they always used to be. You had social security bills, and social security, is far more positive. People are secure in in society.
10? Sounds like.
I'll give him 9.5.
Whoa.
I'm not sure you're right with social security, Phil, because it's a dirty word now. Because the Tories have made it a dirty word.
And Miliband uses it, and it's also that thing. He's starting to use his word strivers and and Miliband's using that again. Strivers, which even if he doesn't use the word shirkers, means he's using the word strivers. So he doesn't have the bottle to actually say it.
Yeah.
How are we doing on the scores?
And Elaine, I'll give 8. 8? Yeah, because I'm sure. I'm sure she just slipped a knife in here, Joanne. Go on, man.
Willie's come in with a paltry 9.
Too much.
Going to have to up his game. I think he's better than 9. I think you just don't like him.
Nope.
Ruth at 19 is 3rd, which is quite high for Ruth. I mean, you actually gave her points. That's unusual. Joanne, 21, she's creeping up. She is getting a bit better week on week by the stats. Alex, way ahead, 35.5. Would you stop giving 0.5s, right?
That was me last week. I got 7.5 to 7.
There he is.
Well, 9, because I was going to give him a 9, but I thought, no, I can't give him 10. So when he said social security, I thought, no, I'll give him a 0.5.
Well, deputy presiding officer, that was another faux pas that was made by Joanne, she called a deputy presiding officer. 26, which, that's high. That's high. And should be high.
Well, that's Elaine's first shot in the seat. And she's a very nice, caring chair. Because, she's been a chair of the cross-party group for years. and I think she'll grow into it.
So what's happened to the presiding officer the last 2 weeks? She's on holiday, she ill.
I don't
No
know.
idea.
We'll need to find out.
Or maybe they just take it in turns now and again. Now and again they do things like that. You get people. They do that in the council with Lord Provost. Now and again, your deputy provost and
Maybe she's
bailies
gone
and
for
that
a
have all shot.
assertiveness training.
Well, could be. She could do some.
How to use a crossbow at 40 yards.
Shall we say cheerio then?
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Well, see you next week.
See you next week, hopefully.